You know what to do with that.
No, I don't.
Where's our internet, Elliot? Elliot!
Hey, y'all.
It's around here somewhere.
Welcome to Cross Politic. Thank you for joining us.
All right.
We need a...
I'm glad Toby's back. He's been gone for a week.
All right. Yeah. Where's my camera?
It really frustrated me.
He's down there on the...
Pastor Toby Chalk Knox, Waterboy, on the Fight, Laugh, Feast Network. Make sure you guys are catching all our shows, man. We had some good stuff by Keith, Pastor Keith, or Campus. What?
Say anything about those glasses?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Oh.
You're distracted. Make sure you guys also join the club. The next 250 club members, actually, it's way down from that.
Yeah.
Because did you guys see the picture I posted on social media of all the stuff, all the pints that we shipped out just for July?
Child labor?
That was just for July.
Yeah.
And then for August, we already got a lot that I need to ship out. So at the end of each month, I'm going to be shipping out the pints. Because
So while supplies last, get one of these laser engraved Fight, Laugh, Feast Network pint glasses.
That's right. And part of the reason why we're doing this is because we have some goals that we're trying to hit with the next 250 club members. So you guys' support is incredible for us. So thank you for that. As this is the last time we're going to bring this up at the Post Law College Life Conference
It's
here
this weekend.
in Moscow, Idaho. No, it's not this weekend. Next weekend.
If you show up this weekend, you'll miss it.
Right.
Next weekend.
And because Knox is out this weekend.
And it might be out next week.
Nope. And Knox is on the panel. So make sure you guys, if you're in the Post College Life age group, there we go.
Guys, it says August 16th and 17th, and it's this weekend.
It does say that on there.
Yep. It's on my calendar for this weekend.
I'm going to miss it.
Oh, man.
But I'm going to be there.
We're gonna, and I'll be there. Lastly,
That is how you do a plug.
Last plug. Hey, people are going to sign up. I just hit. I'm like,
We're done.
We're done. Are you done yet? Get involved with your local politics. This is an opportunity for our people in our community here in Moscow, Idaho, to actually go to the local Leta GOP fundraiser.
We
actually,
pronounce that GOP.
I like saying GOP.
No one says God.
It's like GIF.
No, it's no.
Anyways, Raul Labrador is actually going to be speaking at the local fundraiser and everything. So you guys go get involved.
Wait,
and
is this a potluck?
it's on Saturday.
I don't know if I can trust potlucks that don't happen at a church.
Uh-oh.
I'm just going to say right now. So it might be a great event to go to, but, you know.
Well, it's
August
August
31st.
31st. So a couple Saturdays for now.
You can pray about
We'll
it for,
pray about
for
that.
a few weeks there.
If a lot of Christians show up with their potluck dishes, then we might be okay.
Yeah. August 31st. And that's it. Those are all the plugs I got.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's all you got?
We're going to jump right into this.
Hey, we are really grateful to have Mr. Steve Yates on the line with us. He previously been on Cross Politic.
Yes.
It's one of the highlights of his career.
He's a special advisor to the show.
He's also, honorary special advisor. He's also served in the White House as deputy assistant to the vice president for national security affairs from 2001 to 2005. He received a master's degree in China studies from the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. He's also fluent in Mandarin, which is why we brought him on the show.
Yeah.
Because we want to know what's going on in Hong Kong, Steve, and how did we get here? And thanks for joining us again.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back, and it is indeed the highlight of my resume to be able to be an honorary senior strategic advisor of all things. But it's a pleasure to join. I wish it were actually over happier topics.
Yeah.
I'm quite concerned about what's happening in Hong Kong. On the plus side, we've had somewhat of an awakening about the nature of the Chinese Communist Party and what China is as a power in our world today. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go too deep into the arc of this, but Vice President Pence gave a very important speech in D.C. late last year that for the first time, an American leader didn't just talk about the problems the Communist Party creates within China or the problems the Communist Party creates in the international system, but the problem that the Chinese Communist Party creates within our own country. Mm-hmm. And that's an incredibly big paradigm shift, which is a big letter word of just to change how we're thinking. Mm-hmm. And so that's happened in many other countries, but Hong Kong is now one of the warning flares, the symptoms of something is profoundly rotten in the Communist Party of China, has been for a long time. They are not doing as well economically as they've led us to believe, and a lot of our policies assume. The Trump tariffs and other kinds of pressures have been having an effect, but there's something bigger than anything the United States has been doing that's affecting China. Some people have noticed that they have revived words that should never have come back into our vocabulary: concentration camps in large scales with over 1 million Muslim followers in their far west in these facilities that we know of.
You said over 1 million?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It should be a big deal if there's like more than 100 or even one.
Right.
But 1 million.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's clearly something that's going wrong. And so dial back to 1997, sovereignty of Hong Kong was transferred from the British, the last part of the British Empire that the sun never set on, went down, and it was handed over to the Chinese. They were promised what is called a high degree of autonomy to keep all forms of freedom that they had enjoyed, including religious freedom, an independent judiciary and court system based on common law and not Chinese law, an independent currency. They are a major international financial hub. They are the golden goose that lays the golden eggs for rising China.
So Steve, why hasn't Trump actually come out for or against what's going on in the protests? If you're laying it out this way, it seems like Trump should actually be against China doing this.
In many ways, I believe he is, but there is long-term Trump and there's tactical Trump in my way of thinking.
Okay.
And tactical Trump is looking at how do I keep them at the negotiating table to keep some of these issues alive, some channels of communication alive, so that I have some way of influencing the economic agenda, but also maybe some other issues, because I'm not ready to just turn the switch off and go to full-on war, for lack of a better word. This isn't war like we've ever thought of it in many, many ways. But the scenario I was trying to paint out a little bit is that the Chinese Communist Party has kind of declared war on us and our way of life for a long time. And it's really just we're trying to figure out, are we going to do something about this? What and how? Because it's not an easy challenge. So I don't like the fact that the president went before cameras and referred to people seeking freedoms that we are blessed to have had forefathers willing to die for, and just call that rioting. But that was a tactical move. Strategically, he's the first president in the modern era of the United States to challenge the Communist Party's way of dealing with the United States and with the world. So I give him wide leeway on that, but that tactic I was not a fan of.
So for those who are just coming to the scene, what kicked off these, what you called protest? I mean, we know what the president called protests or riots or whatever. What kicked that off?
Marches for freedom.
A good question, because no one would ever guess it in a million guesses. But there's a piece of legislation in Hong Kong that the pro-Beijing people were trying to push forward that is an extradition law.
Right.
Now, maybe people have heard of a company called Huawei. I don't know. But it's a Chinese technical company that has ties to the government. They had a very well-connected senior Chinese leadership, COO, that was wrapped up in Canada to be tried in the United States. And the United States wants Canada to extradite that officer to the United States for corruption and other commercial crimes.
Okay.
And after the United States did that, there's been a lot of retaliation in China, but now what they're doing with this extradition law is they're trying to say, if an American or Canadian or other CEO happen to come through Hong Kong and we want to trump up some charges, we can go ahead and snatch them up and try them in Chinese courts.
Hong Kong.
What?
No, in China.
Yeah, but if he ends up in Hong Kong,
they want to be able to go get him.
He'd be tried in Chinese courts. Right.
That's right.
Correct. So the young people of Hong Kong, bless them, they knew immediately this is the last stand for any sense of freedom and the way of life that we've had in our life. Because if the Chinese can snatch people up and try them in their own courts, we don't have a common law system. We don't have a high degree of autonomy.
Right.
We have never been given the universal suffrage we were promised when the British agreed to turn the colony over. And so this is kind of the last straw.
That's like Sharia law in Dearborn, Michigan kind of play.
Yeah,
right?
a little thing like Sharia law, yeah. It has to do with fundamental beliefs in your way of life and violates Western common law in our traditions. So demonstrations began. It was a few weeks, but after a few weeks, 2 million out of 7 million people in Hong Kong filled the street.
Yeah.
Whoa.
To demonstrate against this.
I saw pictures.
I can't think of a moment in human history where that percentage of any governed polity hit the streets in silent, peaceful protest.
Wow.
There were no weapons. There was no screaming and fighting. This was almost a Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. moment.
Yeah.
But given the size of that city and that population, on an enormous scale, it would be like 70 million Americans agreeing on anything.
Right.
And then coming out in public.
Right.
For a whole day.
And not throwing a riot. Not fighting. No violence.
And knowing that Big Bad Brother is scanning all of their faces, is checking all of their IDs, and there will be consequences for doing this.
Yeah. I saw.
And so they took those risks. It amazes me. In all the years I studied China, I've never seen anything like this.
So I've been watching this too, and I was scanning a few stories just before we got on, just to see the way that CNN and other people are telling the story. And the thing that was striking to me was that when this first hit the news, I was seeing YouTube clips of these 2 million people in the streets, and they were singing Christian hymns. Did you see any of those?
Christian hymns, the American national anthem, and American flag.
And American flags.
So we have people in America that won't stand for the pledge.
Oh.
But people in Hong Kong fighting for their freedom against the Communist Party, gladly singing our national anthem and holding our flag.
Wow.
And so there's that side of it, which is not showing up in a lot of these mainstream news stories.
Shocker.
And meanwhile, also, you surely are aware of Pastor Wang Yi from Early Rain Covenant Church
in China.
I know of the name. I can't say that I know him well.
Well, he was one of these Christian, pastor of a non-documented Christian church in China, mainland, who basically did so as a conscientious objector to the requirements to register your churches. Was intimidated for a couple of years and then arrested and has been disappeared now for, I think, going on a year.
Yeah. Yes.
And so there's been a crackdown on Christianity in mainland China.
Yep.
And I see them singing hymns over in Hong Kong. And so I'm wondering, what's the underpinning? Is there a Christian underpinning to this protest?
There are a large number of Christians in Hong Kong. For many denominations, Hong Kong was a base of missionary operations in broader Asia for a long time.
Yeah.
Prior to the communists being a thing, and throughout the time of the communist takeover, Hong Kong has been basically an international city, but also it was a gateway to try to have some influence into China, whether you're trying to move Bibles in, or people in and out, or anything like that. Conspicuously for many decades in Hong Kong, I don't know what the history or reason for it is, but there was a large number of active Roman Catholics that were in the government, in the legislature and in the executive side of the government. And almost every church I'm aware of has some kind of base or cooperative post or some kind of activity in Hong Kong, just because it's been the window to over 1 billion people for so long. But there are a lot. Religious freedom is a very real thing in Hong Kong, and it is a very not real thing in the rest of China.
That's right. That's right.
They're burning churches to the ground in China today. And they don't need to. They've already infiltrated a lot of organizations. They're already pressuring people and all kinds of things. And that's why, in my humble opinion, they know better than we do that something is rotten there.
Yeah.
They know why they need to be afraid of their people more than we do.
Right.
That's
and
right.
we need to start understanding that.
So
because the consequences of this can reach us all the way from the Walmart shelf to the pension you thought was safe but is invested in an international market that's about to tank,
Yep.
to just the moral and human issues that are very significant.
So connect the dots here. Why does China think they can lay claim to Hong Kong and make Hong Kong do what they want them to do?
Well, there is a strain of nationalism in China that is an easy thing to stoke. The Communist Party stokes it really, really hard because communism itself has no legitimacy. And so they try to, they wrap themselves in the flag, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if you are denying your citizens the bridges, the schools, the benefits for their kids that they should otherwise have, and you've already taken their freedom away, the best way to distract them from that is to say, but bad Uncle Sam is doing all this, and all of our resources have to go to that.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to the mansion I live in. Uncle Sam is taking all of your money.
Right.
And so that's what's going on inside of China. Why Hong Kong? Because they speak the Chinese language, and this is why this is a bigger problem than a lot of our experts and leaders have understood. This ethnocentrism of control and obedience to your emperor doesn't limit itself at the Chinese border. They expect Chinese people in the United States to be loyal to the Han race first.
Ooh.
And then whatever citizen they are of another country, whatever. They expect people of their ethnicity to be loyal to the Han universe first before any god or any church.
So why does
so that's what they do.
When I was talking about what I was seeing in mainstream news, you said that's no surprise. But if China has got 1 million Muslims in concentration camps and China is championing this ethnocentrism, why is the left knee-jerk sort of supportive of the Chinese state?
Partly because Trump, and they can't sort of get out of their perpetual funk about our man in the White House.
Right.
But also partly because I can't blame them entirely. I'm not Roman Catholic, I promise, but just to make another reference, you can't be more Catholic than the Pope. And if you've got majority Muslim countries that are not protesting China over this, how are you going to, how do you make it a broader thing?
Mm-hmm.
And now you should be able to, because there's right and wrong, there's
right.
evil that you can see, and you should be able to talk about it.
Right.
But that's kind of what's happening. If you're a news organization, I would like to think they would do that, but they don't have free access to get images.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, you don't have the government of Pakistan, the government of Saudi Arabia, these others denouncing their friends in China for this.
Interesting.
And so it's one of the greater sins happening in all of this. But the mainstream media has actually done a very good job of being journalists in Hong Kong at the moment.
Okay.
I can't explain why or how, but there's a large number that are on the streets that are accurately reporting the facts as they see them with minimal filter. And so we have at least a moment on that.
Okay.
But the broader narrative on China, they don't have that access, and the narrative gets controlled by Chinese influencers.
Yeah.
My question, Steve, I'm wondering, looking at the people of Hong Kong, 28 years, this thing's over, right? I mean, it goes full into China. They pretty much have rule of Hong Kong at that point. It's almost a game over. Right now, they're seeing that they're trying to creep in early and they're trying to push them back, it seems like. But the marches and the people inside of the airports and people filling the streets, is that the only option that they have, or is there another option for them to maybe win the short game as well as the long game in 28 years before everything's handed over to China?
Well, there's a couple of things that inform thinking on that. I mean, it's absolutely correct on analysis, but it depends on what we believe the future of China is.
I see.
And when people entered into these deals, Margaret Thatcher is the one that made this deal with Deng Xiaoping in China to hand over sovereignty.
Okay.
And at that time, they thought China's changing. It's going to get richer. Things will get more modern. They'll get more moderate. They'll get more like us. will cooperate more. It'll be a normal country. And so it's so far down the horizon, we anticipate that China is going to change.
Wow.
And we conflate the idea of China with the Communist Party. The Communist Party isn't going to change until it is killed by the Chinese people.
Mm-hmm.
China itself is bigger than the Communist Party of China. And so it is logically possible that 20 years from now, we're dealing with a China that is no longer governed by the Communist Party of China. Looking back over the last 6 decades, that's a bad bet, but it's possible. And what's happening in Hong Kong is the first major test of that idea, and that's why the Communist Party is in such a tight spot. If they crush what they see as a color revolution-like problem, then it dramatically changes their economy, it dramatically changes their image in the world, and it might dramatically change the image the party has among the Chinese people. And they've got a whole can of worms.
Wow.
If they don't put it down, then millions and millions and millions of people in China say, well, why do they get to do this and we don't?
Yeah, that's
why
right.
do they have freedom of religion and we don't?
Interesting.
Why do they have common law and we don't? And that's the dilemma that they're on. I hope that they die on the horns of that dilemma.
So can these marches actually work? Do you think these marches can actually start a domino effect that would even collapse the China in that sense?
Communists.
The communist China.
So I'll just be brutally honest, and it's a brutal situation in my estimation. I think there's extremely high odds that people are going to die in the near term. The only question is whether their sacrifice will fundamentally change the direction of humanity in that part of the world. And there are huge consequences for the rest of the world and how that plays out.
Wow.
We are either in a massive conflict with the Communist Party of China, emboldened and brutal, or something has finally changed and there's a more hopeful journey. That's what my bet is on. But there's a lot of evidence that says this is going to be very dangerous. And we're dealing with people that don't mind killing people.
Wow. That's really, really helpful, Steve. And
yeah, absolutely. How can we keep in contact
super
with you?
uplifting.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
optimistic.
but you know what? If you know history, you know how these things go, and you always know that it takes a martyr before the revival breaks out and things change. It's just kind of how things the world works. So you don't want to think about it like that, but I think in a lot of cases you're right. So Steve, how can we follow you? Because you're going to be talking about this. You're going to be engaging this. We want to keep track of your thoughts on this. What's the best way to find you?
I appreciate that. Anyone can go to steve-yates.com and you'll find ways to click on to my Facebook page and Twitter feed and whatever else. I'm at Yates DCIA on Twitter. Turns out that a lot of people in the media want to talk about this these days. And so if they haven't had enough of Hong Kong and China talk, they can click on any of those areas and there'll be more. But I appreciate you guys engaging the topic, and I think it's really, really going to be important for all of us to get our heads around this.
And then thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it, Steve.
You got it. Anytime.
There's a lot.
Wow.
There.
Yeah. That at the end there, your question about why did they hand this over?
Yeah.
And his answer is really, really key because we have bought into the idea of the salvation of democracy.
Yeah.
And the West for a long time has believed that the way you get democracy in non-democratic nations is through money.
Right.
And free markets.
Doing deals with them.
So we think we're going to buy them with business and money, and then they will naturally go democratic. And what we're seeing though is that it turns out that there are bigger gods than money.
There you can keep
power,
bigger gods.
right.
And communism and the power of the state is a bigger god
than money.
Money at this moment. I mean, at least that's those are the gods that are
think
at
of
war.
North Korea. They don't have money.
Well,
what's ruling them?
And this is why you have to shut Christianity down.
Right. And I
think it kills gods.
This has to be connected to Wang Yi.
Absolutely.
Right.
I think it is. It maybe not like one for one, but I absolutely do think it is. I think the fact that Hong Kong is such a Christian place, the fact that you have 2 million of 7 million people singing Christian hymns
It's
in the
dangerous.
streets. This is not just a political revolution.
Yeah.
No.
This is Christian resistance.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's huge. And it strikes me that these people, the Hong Kongers, are seeing this a lot more clearly than Americans.
And quicker.
Man.
Because
quicker.
we have courts saying that you have to bake the cake
Yep.
Yeah.
for the sodomite wedding.
Yeah.
And we're kind of putting up a little bit of a fuss, and we're kind of fighting it in the courts, and everybody's staying fairly reasonable.
Right.
And they're saying, wait a sec, you want to extradite people from here to China?
Yeah,
no, we know this play.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
we know communists.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have socialists here in our country
Yep.
who are out in the open, out and proud socialists now.
Yeah.
And we aren't seeing we say,
Having
well,
conventions.
Well,
and
I
stuff.
actually got a clip now that you bring socialists being out and loud and proud.
what?
I have a clip from the latest Democratic
It's almost like we
Socialist
planned this.
convention.
Oh, do we have to go?
Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say,
He,
can you
him.
please keep the chatter to a minimum. I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Quick point of privilege once again. Hi, James
Is that
Jackson,
the he, him?
Sacramento DSA, he, him. I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload.
What is
and
that?
that goes double
can't clap.
for the
I
heckling
don't
and the
think
that's
hissing.
sensory overload.
It is also triggering to my anxiety. Like, the be comradely isn't just for let's keep things civil or whatever. It's so that people aren't going to get triggered and so that it doesn't affect their performance as a delegate, okay? Your need to express yourself is important, but your need to express yourself should not trump or over,
I see that no one's clapping for me. It could be because I'm not engaging, but it also is because everyone's doing this. And that's really important because those loud bursts of noise, even though this is a noisy space, when we can do something like reducing that, that's really important. So please don't clap, shoot up these. We have a lot of disabled comrades, and a lot of those are invisible disabilities. You don't know who it is
Invisible
that is having a
disabilities.
more difficult time navigating this space, and this space was not created with all of their needs in mind. So it's up to us to modify that space to make sure that everybody is able to move in the ways that they need to move.
I can't.
And additionally, with the
I can't watch it.
noise issue, like avoid hissing, avoid waving banners, right? Because there's all sorts of things. If you don't know what to do, show up these, right? I'm sure there's lots of ways that we can communicate to each other without needing to rely on something that's going to hurt somebody else. We have quiet rooms that are available. There's a range of
keeps going.
options of these,
It
right?
keeps going.
Please don't
He
go
triggered
in
me when
that
he did
space.
this.
Yeah.
Quiet rooms.
Well, you know what? Look, I saw some people talking about this a little bit, and I know people are like, "This is absolutely crazy." I love it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
No.
it's glorious.
I hope that this continues to go on. This is great. This is what it looks like when you start eating yourself.
Oh man.
And half the Democrats running for president right now claim democratic socialism.
Yeah.
Claim this stuff.
I think a number of people have pointed this out, but all the Democrats have to do to show up in the next election is be kind of normal.
Yeah, right. Well, that's
And
why Biden's getting traction.
They can't even do that.
No, because they don't want normal. They want a revolution.
Well, I think Trump is their catnip. every time
He
he tweets something, and then they just go berserk.
Yeah.
They go bonkers.
Did you see what Trump did with Cuomo?
No.
Excuse me. So Cuomo, Chris Cuomo, he's a CNN anchor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He in public, some dude kind of accosted him. He called him Fredo. Fredo's a reference. It's an Italian reference to Godfather. Godfather called his dumb brother Fredo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Cuomo.
Fredo never go against the family again.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so it basically means dumb brother, right?
Yeah.
And Cuomo just took it. He's like, that's a racist comment. That's like calling me the N-word. That's like calling a black brother the N-word. And anyways, Trump tweets out, he says, This guy is the kind of guy we're talking about with red flag laws.
Yes.
He should not have a gun. He's crazy.
I don't like any of those
because
tweets.
of how Cuomo reacted to the whole scenario. It's pretty funny.
Don't get me started on the red flag laws.
Let's save that for Friday.
Yeah. Man, that's right. I'm so bummed with all these conservative Republicans coming out and
well, they got
favor
well
red
because they have to
flag
bow
laws.
to the gods.
Yeah.
The gods right now that they want, they're playing.
They don't.
That's what they think they need
They
to
don't.
do. They don't need to.
Stop.
You ever heard of Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro?
Yes, I did.
They didn't bow down to
They didn't bow down.
And a bad Fredo?
I'm going to go get me a gun.
Fredo's, no.
And a bad Fredo?
No.
So this last week, I need to go to the next slide. I don't know why I did that. But so this last week, Mitch McConnell was actually protested over gun issues.
Yeah.
Because
in response to the El Paso
shooting, specifically the El Paso shooting,
Right.
the Ohio shooting kind of disappeared because that guy supported Elizabeth Warren. So
we don't want to talk
on
about that one?
Oh.
El Paso.
Okay.
And so a bunch of people showed up at Mitch McConnell's house to protest him.
Probably a silent protest with their hands just kind of in the air.
They're waving. The Democratic Socialists.
Waving to McConnell?
At like 2 a.m.
Some rest. Not if the children that you're kidnapping can't get any rest. Not if families who are getting murdered can't get any rest. Mitch! He's in there nursing his little broken arm. He should have broke his little raggedy wrinkled neck.
Uh-oh.
If we can't get no rest because of you won't get no rest because of us.
Well, this ridiculous video.
And so this gets into, so Matt Bevin shows up on Fox News to actually talk about this because it's in his state.
Who's
right,
Bevin?
He's the governor of Kentucky.
Okay.
This is in his state. So Mitch McConnell is a senator
from Kentucky,
a congressman from Kentucky.
Did these people get arrested?
No, they didn't get arrested.
Nobody got cited for a citation for being out somebody's house.
No, you're thinking of people who go preach at Planned Parenthood.
Yeah,
that's what you're thinking about.
Because if that, I mean, that's amazing. Christians that go out in front of Planned Parenthood and have like a little voice box here so they can hear, so they can save lives during the day.
Yeah.
During the time of hours, those people are catching cases.
Right.
Well, I can't remember the guy in Arizona who actually got arrested, was it, and then tried in court.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and they're for noise violations.
Yeah. Right.
And these people, their intention is to make noise so people can't sleep.
You didn't play the clip, the rest of the Democratic Socialist clip, but later on, one of those guys, he actually says he makes a few shots at Trump, or who did he make a Trump?
He said MAGA police.
And everybody cheered?
Yeah.
He said MAGA cuss word police.
And everybody cheered, and he said, thank you.
Right. Yeah.
And they said, actually, raise your hands. Raise your hands.
After all that, like, can we keep it down?
Yeah.
You're about to trigger me.
Yeah.
My anxieties and my unknown disabilities.
Then he throws some catnip in the audience.
And they all cheers.
Like,
thank you.
Yeah.
Right? And my point, though, is everything has to do with it's absolute rank hypocrisy.
That's right, man.
It's absolute rank hypocrisy. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. It has nothing to do with there's no fixed standard here at all.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with if it's our people, we cheer.
Yep.
And if it's against our enemies, you can bang your bells outside their house at 2 a.m.
Yep.
But if you're preaching against abortion, if you're preaching about the necessity of protecting the rights of the unborn for life, then you're the enemy.
Yeah.
You know,
you can wish death threats on Mitch McConnell.
Wish their broken
I hope his neck.
necks.
Yes.
Yeah. Wrinkled broken neck, by the way.
Yeah. And if you shot at something
wrinkly.
because you're in favor of Elizabeth Warren, don't worry, you're a martyr.
Yep.
We'll cover you.
Well, this is what I'm going to quote you. I remember we were talking about this about a month ago. You're saying, listen, these guys are not going to play by the rules. They want the rules there to keep you from playing. But you can forget them.
They just weaponize the rules.
They weaponize exactly right.
They say, oh, hey, how about some civility? When they say civility, you need to just look them in the eye and say, you don't know what
Stick your
civility
tongue out at 'em.
is. You don't know.
Boo-boo.
Where'd you get that civility
Exactly.
from?
Yeah.
All right. What standard?
Yeah. So Matt Bevin shows up on Fox News to actually talk about this because this happens in a state. And I bring up Matt Bevin for a couple reasons. One is because he's a governor who's actually using the bully pulpit.
Right.
We have, I think, 30-something Republican governors nationwide, and I never hear a peep out of them.
Right.
Our own, including Governor Brad Little, about all this stuff. And then Matt also, he takes the conversation where it should go.
That would put me in big trouble. Will anything be done to these protesters? Have you called on that as the governor of Kentucky?
Again, at this point, it was a one-night thing. It has been removed. There's no point in making more of this than it was. But to say nothing was inappropriate. Had it continued, I would have perhaps been put in a position where I would have had to step in and do something. But at this point, I think to say nothing, what Edmund Burke said is true enough. What it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And this is a variation of evil. And there are those, including one of the loudest and most vocal points that was being made was by an individual who at least calls themselves the head of the local Black Lives Matters group. And I'll tell you this, the hypocrisy of that as well. If, in fact, other lives don't matter, then you undermine your argument that in this case, Black lives matter. In order for Black lives to matter, and I agree absolutely that they do, that all lives must matter. You can't pick and choose. You don't get to have it one way and not the other. And I think this lack of civility is important. And again, I'll say one other thing, too. Shifting gears slightly, but pointing out this hypocrisy. Literally in the state of New York, the same governor and the same legislature celebrate the fact that you can now no longer declaw a cat because of the unusual punishment and pain that inflicts. But the very same people will stand there in the same assembly and cheer and applaud in light buildings over the killing of a child at birth. It is that level of hypocrisy that, as long as it is tolerated by those normal people and those on the right and those who see it for what it is, that the emperor is in fact naked, if we keep our mouths shut, the left gets to dictate what does or doesn't pass for civility, and I think that's unacceptable.
Bingo. Well said.
Preach, preacher.
He thought he was at church.
Preach,
He's trying to get an offering or something.
But look at where he took that conversation.
Yeah.
He started, I'm going to call out New York. Yeah. I'm going to call out the left. I'm going to call out their play for civility, as we were just talking about.
Yeah.
He's like, this is what they want us to do. They want us to be civil.
Civility is murdering a baby at birth and not declawing a cat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't know what civility is.
Right.
It's rank hypocrisy. It's weaponizing civility is what it is. It's not actually creating a civil society. The people who are demanding that sodomites be blessed and encouraged.
And you have to bake cakes for them.
And you have to bake cakes to them, and you have to wax some ugly dude's
giblets.
Yeah. Or else you're a hateful bigot. Mm-hmm. You don't know what civility is.
No.
Yeah.
And this is why ultimately, the fact that we're having these conversations, it all goes back to, what happens when we turn away from God? Yeah. Professing ourselves to be wise, we become fools and our foolish hearts are darkened. Right? That's where we are, right? We're in the dark. We've become utterly foolish. And we need the light of the gospel to shine on us again. Hopefully, that's what's happening in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And hopefully, God will use that and many other faithful testimonies to wake us up. Yeah. Give us eyes to see our own sin, our own complicity in this darkness, and raise the church up to be faithful and courageous again.
Right.
I just want to know, he triggered me when he said Black Lives Matter.
Were you triggered?
Oh my goodness. I can't stand If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart. Actually, till Friday. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. Black Lives Matter don't care enough about black people.